Hey, we're going to be reading to you a book titled Keeping Time by Sienna Saner. The group was an odd one. A teenage boy leaned against the marble columns, his pants torn and smudged, and his threadbare waistcoat barely covering his chest. No one knew who he was or cared to ask his name. Miss Ann Davis, a wealthy widow, immediately settled into an armchair and peeked at her appearance for the third time that morning. Her hands were shaking slightly as she held up a gold-plated pocket mirror. A young immigrant couple stood silently away from the group. They were dressed in finest clothing. She in her black skirt, cream blouse, and Sunday hat, and he in his tweed suit, which had been grandfather's. Were they Italian? Hungarian? No one knew. Another couple sashayed through the great oak bank door, a movie producer from the Sunday edition. November 10th newspaper tucked under his arm, and a pipe lazily dropping from the corner of his mouth, and his girlfriend, Lucille, an actress with a glamorous dress and a red clutch that matched her ruby lips, and cold, hawk like green eyes that matched her sweet demeanor. They sailed into the love sea. Each minded his or her own business, and each had no real interest in the others. The teenage boy watched them all carefully. Ladies and gentlemen, the employee announced with a flourish, into the elevator, and I will lead you to the vault, he pronounced. Elevator, elevator, at which the boy couldn't help but smirk pompously, he thought. A single gleaming door stood at the end of the hall, delicately balanced. Atop was a golden floor indicator, its solid brass arrow pointed at a shiny letter L. A doorman turned the key to open the doors, and everyone shuffled into the cramped enclosure. The boy graciously stepped aside to let them pass first. The doorman shut the metal cage with a clang that echoes in the shaft below them. The elevator descended into the depths of clanking downward on the last glimpse of light from above the snuffle. A shroud of darkness surrounded them, and the air felt as if it was mixed with ice. The immigrant woman screamed. She was claustrophobic. and the tight elevator reminded her of the horrors of her childhood in the mines when she would sink into the earth, praying that the last speck of sunlight was not her final glimpse of the world above. Her husband comforted her in another language. The employee huffed and hated immigrants, always so hard to communicate. Level V, vault, the doorman said monotonously as the cage came to a halt and the door creaked open. The group emerged into the drafty corridor, the ladies' heels clicking ominously on the concrete floor, and the nook in the wall was a kerosene lantern which the employees lit using a match in his pocket. Shadows danced on the walls, inviting the group down the passageway. Miss Davis fingered the button on her mink coat. She crinkled her nose at the foul smell of underground. For San Francisco Bank, you think they would keep it cleaner? She muttered, accentuating the last word and eyeing the bank employees with contempt. The immigrants, and also the woman next to her, fawned in disapproval and silently switched to her husband's other arm. He fingered his pockets, watched and wondered, as if he dared to check the time. Just then, a bank employee strolled into the foyer, sporting a navy suit and a perfectly groomed mustache. He had taken extra care to apply pomade to his morning and styled it in the latest fashion. Miss Davis thought he looked like her son, Harry, although Harry was much more handsome and the result of good breeding. Glistering in the gloom, the vault door was dull, heavy silver, rounded into a complete circle. A sleek handle, which looked like a boat wheel, protruded from the cool metal, setting his hands on opposite sides of the lock. The bank employee turned away, and that it was an intricate maze only he knew the path to. One by one, the metal bars surrounding the vault shot out like balls in a pinball machine, and the big door swung open. The immigrant man was in rupture. His father had been a clockmaker. He had tinkered with locks, screws, since he was a little boy. The vault door was the most beautiful and intricate mechanical wonder he had ever seen. This way, ladies and gentlemen, the employee ushered them through the entrance. To the left, a glass door led to a private viewing area with several sets of tables and chairs. A chandelier providing the only light. To the right was a spacious vault, a dark cavern surrounded by concrete, black lock boxes, towering on shelves up to the ceiling like books stacked in a library. The air was icy, woody, and coated with moisture. The coolness of the gunmetal wall and floor seemed to seep through the shoes and prick their skin. Your valuables are under the utmost protection, the employee announced, waving his arm around in demonstration as he had led them among the towering stacks. 450 tons of concrete surrounded these walls on all three sides, and the surface is 500 feet above us. The only entrance he pointed back the way they would come is that vault door, designed by German engineering Johann Rohel. It is the finest in the world. Nothing can trigger the lock except an intricate routine of turns, which is known only to three people: the president of the bank, Johann Rigel, and myself. So I can assure you that your precious valuables are safer than the king's jewels in the Tower of London. He chuckled. But no one joined him. The immigrant woman clapped her hands weakly as she stared eye wide at the spire of lockboxes surrounding them. Can we just view our boxes? The producer hopeful. He had a train to catch too. Hollywood the next morning, and he needed his contract. Lucille was a growing impatient. She had agreed to accompany him to the vault only if agreed to take her to her favorite restaurant night. Ah, yes, certainly, the employee said, and he did not talk after that. Now, if please, follow me to the viewing area, gesturing over his shoulder. The employee distributed the boxes to their corresponding owners. Nothing, whether each person was depositing, withdrawing, or viewing, and then open each boxes with a set of their own keys. Miss Davis was the first to receive her box containing her priceless jewelry and dozens of bundles of paper notes she had received from her late husband, Will. She, however, only had eyes for a small silver bracelet in the back of the left corner. It had been given to her by her mother, and she in turn intended to pass it to her granddaughter. The immigrant, the immigrant couple fidgeted nervously with the lid of their box. They had been saving up for utmost a year to bring their families to America, depositing nearly all of their paycheck each month into the lockbox for safekeeping. They finally had enough. This money was their family's way to freedom. The boys stood off to the side. He had not received his locker. He was trying unsuccessfully to catch the bank employee, but to no avail. And then he asked help from the employee. Yes, of course. The employee ignored the boy and drew a pen from his pocket, setting the table. Just as the producer was about to pick the pin, twist it, roll it from the table onto the ground, a tremor radiated through the bowl. The chandelier plummeted from the ceiling, shattered into 1,000 fragments of cut glass. The earth rumbled like a giant awakened from slumber. Earthquake, the employee yelled. The teenage boy dove under the table, dragged the immigrant woman and Miss Davis with him. The producer bolted toward the exit, shoving people aside and knocking over tables and chairs as he was about to escape through the vault door. The ceiling collapsed, and an avalanche of boulder and concrete cascaded in front of him, crashing into the floor of the vault. Just as suddenly as it had come, the shaking stopped. When the dust settled, they emerged from the hiding place. They saw with dismay that the exit was completely filled with rubble. The teenage boy clawed at the rocks and thrust his shoulder into the boulder. Help me, he called at the three men, turning themselves against the wall of rock. It wouldn't budge. The immigrant man spoke for the first time. There's no way out. The immigrant woman collapsed onto her knees and begged to pray, bowing down the ground. Oh dear God, woman, we can't tell where Mika is. The producer scolded her. Can he tell she's polished, boy? Through the rubbing his sore shoulders. Everyone remained calm, said the employee, looking the very opposite of calm himself. We're going to find a way out. How? The immigrant man asked. Well, um, I'm sure there's a way. No, you said yourself that was the only exit, and this is blocked. The employee does not respond. You, Lucille shouted, pointing her finger accusingly at the teenage boy. You did this. The boy was aghast. How did I did this? It was an earthquake. Lucille ignored him. He's the suspicious one. What does he even need a lockbox for anyway? He's nothing but a poor boy. How are we supposed to know he hasn't set off an explosion to distract us and steal our money? The bank employee frowned. He knew that the boy was far from wealthiest person in the room, having just inherited a fortune from his prospector father. Yet he chose to dress as if he was still working in the Sierra Nevada. Why can't he show any more respect for the bank? The boy's nothing but a child. He could never make a scheme like that, Miss Davis remarked. He's probably too ignorant. He looked like he hasn't proper schooling. I would never do something like this, the boy said, suppressing anger, but it didn't happen. We just have to be, we just have to hope that someone will come to dig us out. We can't contact anyone, so we have to trust that Dorman will remember that we're down here and call the firemen to come rescue us. It's a slim chance, but it's the best hope we have. Everyone ignored his reasoning. Everyone ignored his reassurance, except one, shuffling to their own corners of a cavern and distancing themselves from the others. Miss Davis, asleep, clutching a picture of her son to her breast. The immigrant couple huddled together. Lucille, soaked in a corner, while the producer read his newspaper as far away from her as possible. He had enough of his own problems. He couldn't be bothered with her woman trifles. After a while, they all began to get restless. What day is it? Miss Davis asked. The imprint of her purse handle was engraved into the side of her face as a result of her as a pillow. The 10th of November, madam. Produced tapped the upper corner of his newspaper. How are we supposed to tell how long we've been stuck down here? I have a watch, the boy said. Well, what time is it? Miss Davis asked impatiently. The boy opened his mouth and then stopped. It's been 2 hours since the earthquake, he announced finally. Why don't we assess what we have and see if there's anything of use? They gradually turned into their pockets and purses. The collection consisted of lantern, a tube of red lipstick, a newspaper, a pipe, a pen, a pocket mirror, a rosary, a bottle of perfume, three handkerchiefs, a coin purse filled with polished money, a pair of spectacles, a comb, and one gold pocket watch. No one said anything. The employee opened his mouth and then shouted, "No water and no food," Lucille stated several seconds later. "We're going to die," the employee announced, shaking his head. No one challenged him. Having each to the same conclusion, the immigrant man comforted his wife, his trembling wife, his face grim. The producer paced furiously among the shelves, while Lucille stared at the wall in shock. After some time, Miss Davis clutched her stomach. "I need food." "You can't be that hungry. It's only been a few hours," the employee said. "You only think you're starving because you know that there's nothing to eat." I actually feel full, the immigrant woman piped up, but then silent as she was met with resentful stares. How long have we been stuck here? Lucille demanded after a while, turning to the teenage boy. It's only been 12 hours, ma'am. I don't believe you. Lucille, give it a rest. The boy has the watch, not you, the producer said, lazily turning over another page of the newspaper and pretended to read an ad. Daisy Deluxe perfume. Lucille glared at him and stamped her foot. It can't be only 12 hours. It feels like days. How am I supposed to know if I'm dying of thirst? You're not, ma'am. Humans can survive 3 days to 4 days without water, and it's only been half of one. Will be rescued before we start. The boy answered. Miss Davis wondered as he was trying to reassure himself as much as Lucille. He looked the worst from all of them. His cheeks were pulled tightly against his face. His eyes glistened. What felt like days passed by. The group grew more and more hungry. Their lips cracked from lack of water. Their stomachs ate away at their insides, searching for food that never came. Sometime later, the immigrant woman steadily dipped her hands into her pocket and produced a mint candy, attempting to shield it with her other hand. She carefully unwrapped it. The paper crinkled. Everyone looked up. She had food, yelled the producer. The immigrant man snatched the candy from his wife's hand and tried to stuff it into his suit pocket to protect her. She wrestled it from his grip, but Lucille scratched the woman's face and tore her hair to reach it. The immigrant woman screamed and tripped. Miss Davis pried the candy from her fingers. She unwrapped the mint completely and was about to place it triumphantly in her mouth when the producer slapped her hand and the candy fell on the floor. How dare you take that from an old woman? She shrieked. Stop, stop, shouted the bank employee, trying to pull everyone apart, and in doing so, crushing the candy under his foot. Get the pieces, Lucille, and they all scrambled to scream yet again, climbing over each other like wild animals. Everybody stop, yelled the boy, fiercely kicking the pieces aside with his shoes. There's no use in fighting. We're all stuck here together, and no one person deserves to live more than the other. So, he said, picking up the candy pieces, we're going to split it equally. How do we know you won't be taking more for yourself? Said the immigrant man, hopeful. You're just going to have to trust me, said the boy, dropping a piece in everyone's outstretched hand and placing the tiniest splinter in his own mouth. No one thanked him. They all turned away. The boy clenched his fist and curled up against a lockbox, wishing for her father and mother. I'll see them soon. How long has it been? Croaked Miss Davis later. 1 day, ma'am, the boy replied sleepily. How long? 26 hours. That's November 11th. How long? 30 hours. How long? Only a day and a half, but it feels like more. It's only been a day and a half, I promise you. Keep going, keep going, keep going, they told themselves. Their lips, their stomachs felt as if knives were being thrusted into them. Miss Davis was starved. She choked down her lipstick, and the rest of her group hungrily munched on the paper documents. Lucille passed around a bottle of perfume, and they took turns sipping at its contents. It tastes like burnt flowers and scorched inside. Keep going, keep going. They all huddled together between two stacks, resting their heads against a lockbox. My son Harry doesn't speak to me anymore, Miss David whispered to the door. Left home when he was 16. Now he lives with his wife and their daughter in Chicago. My grandbaby was just turned 8 years. I never see him. A tear trickled down her cheeks. She was glad that no one else could see. My family's back in Poland. I haven't seen them in years. I know you feel. I know how you feel. We all know how you feel, whispered the immigrant man. Lucille was crying quietly next to the immigrant woman, who squeezed her hand and asked her what was the matter. I just want him to love me, Lucille whimpered, burying her head into her dress. But he can barely even look at me anymore. The producer sat, his back to her, reading the same line in his newspaper over and over, listening to every word. My father and mother are dead, said the boy. I have no family, but no one heard him. How long? Said the immigrant woman after a while. The boy checked his watch. 40 hours. Keep going, keep going, keep going. It felt like eternity. The lantern sputtered and died, and they were shut in complete darkness. Together, but alone. Keep going, keep going, keep going. How long? The employee asked, frantically. 45 hours. How long? 2 days. It's November 12th. 2 days. 2 days. And one more day, and we'll all be dead. The immigrant man muttered. Away from the group, Lucille was resting against a shelf. My dear, I have something to tell you. She gasped, clutching her stomach weakly. The producer grinned. The producer grinned in acknowledgement, but refused to look at her. I'm pregnant. Silent. I was going to be a father, said the producer, staring straight ahead, expression unmoved. Yes, cried Lucille. I am. Fearfully. The producer's eyes filled with tears, and he held his face in his hands for several moments before reaching over to Lucille and giving her a firm kiss. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I came tight. Lucille sobbed into her chest. Keep going. Keep going. They wondered if it wouldn't hurt to die, and if the pain could be any worse than that they were already feeling. Their breathing became raged and broken. Their bodies were numb. Their heartbeats slowed. And then voices murmured and played. Your mind is playing tricks on you, Miss Davis croaked. No, he's right, shouted the producer. They all struggling to sit, not yet willing to believe or to hope. A crack appeared in the boulder, and then another. The group clutched each other's hands as their wreck came tumbling apart. A team of firemen stepped through the rubble. We found him, one yelled. More men followed, carrying outstretched and waving flashlights over the cavern, their beams coming to rest. All in all, 7 prisoners. Miss Davis was the first to be helped. She hugged the fireman who was about to lift her onto her stretcher. I'm going to see Harry, she whispered, tears dripping down her cheeks. I'm going home to my Harry. I'm going home to my Harry. The producer was happy and kissed Lucille. They hobbled out together's arms, escorted by the firemen, but they never separated, holding each other's hand. The producer, not letting go of Lucille's hands. Lucille's hair was a mess. She wasn't wearing any face powder, and her once pristine dress was covered in dirt, was covered in dirt stains and mud. She couldn't care less. The immigrant couple broke into semblance of polished folk dance. The woman even kissed feet of each other's far, despite the protest, muttering, "Bless you, bless you." The men shook each of their hands affectionately. The employee was parched. He could barely speak, but he smiling and kept shaking his head in utter disbelief. Everyone was too preoccupied to think of the boy. He was lying next to the empty lockbox, his head resting upon his arm. His eyes were shut, and his lips formed a serene smile. He looked almost angelic. He was dead, and his hand, he clutched the watch. It was November 15th. 10:33 a.m.